You gonna shine my shoes too, or just the floor? The question landed like a slap. The man in a tux lifted his glossy foot, pointing at the heel splashed with champagne. Laughter, whispers, a phone flash. The electronic beats sliced through the hall like blades, but nothing cut deeper than those words. She stayed quiet. Kneeling, gloves still damp and the mop leaning on her leg, she took a deep breath. The golden light from the chandeliers spread across the marble like liquid, mixing with the reflections of dresses from the guests and the puddle flowing from a broken glass. Just another accident. Just another late night. Just another humiliation. Move! You're in the way, a woman's voice snapped, carrying perfume and disdain. She stepped back, finished drying, and picked the shards one by one, like someone gathering secrets. Nobody noticed the thin red line that opened on her finger when a sharp piece hid under the foam. Nobody but her. The hall seemed endless. Velvet curtains, carved columns, round tables dressed with white porcelain, heavy silverware, and glasses that sang in every toast. Outside, engines still warm. Inside, an electric orchestra, measured laughs, whispered promises. A deal worth a whole company, a toast sealing a business marriage. And at the center, the host, the millionaire who demanded to be seen but never touched. "Hey, girl," someone called. "You missed a spot." She turned, spotted the tiny fragment, nearly invisible, picked it up, and before tossing it, lifted her eyes for just a moment. It was enough to see. The guards watched everything from above like statues with ears. At a nearby table, 3 men in ties adjusted their pricey watches, a rehearsed show of power. And at the far end, a half-open door let in cold air. Through the crack came a sound different from the music, a strange silence, like the emptiness before a fall. "You deaf or what?" She bent again, wiping the floor. Foam mixed with marble shine. Her knees ached, her hand shook, not from fear but strain. This wasn't the first night, not the first party, not the first time someone mistook kindness for weakness. When she finished, she rose slowly, gathered the shards on a tray, and walked to the service area. The corridor was narrow, the air less scented, the light more real. She passed the crew that had worked all day, the waiter with a loose tie, the head cook with eyes measuring time and heat like numbers, the florist on the ground removing pins from her shoes. "All good?" asked the manager, avoiding her eyes. "All good," she said. "Back to the hall. Stay sharp. The boss wants it spotless." "Yes," she returned. The music grew louder. On stage, the DJ switched tracks. The main chandelier trembled, barely noticeable. The drunk didn't notice. The sober didn't either. But she did. The chandelier wasn't shaking. It was breathing 1, 2, 3 pulses. As if the air current was wrong, as if the rich hall had a secret lung, inhaling and exhaling out of rhythm. "Miss," said an older man with a soft accent, "do you have a napkin?" She pulled a clean cloth from her apron and handed it. "Of course." "Thanks," he smiled, warm, different. His gaze lingered on her with the care people give true art, not the kind hung for status. "Tough job you've got." "Yeah," she replied. "But someone has to do it." "Someone always does," he echoed, as if agreeing was a form of kindness. A young man stumbled back and nearly knocked over a tall glass column filled with orchids. She rushed, steadying it. He didn't notice, laughed and moved on. She fixed the flowers, checked the fake dew on the petals, and felt a vibration at the base. Slight, but real. It came from the floor, not from the music. Something else. "You," said the perfume woman, reappearing with a sharp smile. "Clean the balcony outside." "Guests are complaining about glass marks." "On it? Still here?" the shiny shoe man mocked. "Slow, huh?" She didn't answer. Too many words waste more energy than silence. Crossing the hall, past tables where laughter had teeth, she noticed the host for the first time. Not by height, clothes, or the sparkle of his watch, but by the way space bent when he moved. Conversations parted, waiters sped up, onlookers pulled back. He walked like someone who knew the world spoke his language. Numbers. He stopped, drawn to something across the room, and for a second looked her way, without really seeing her. Oh, ChatGPT, dice. It was so brief it felt like chance, But in that instant she caught a detail. His eyes weren't empty. They were trained. He wasn't a man living off luck. He was someone who measured risk. Someone who, without knowing, stood one step from the biggest risk of that night. She pushed the glass door to the balcony. The night air swept in like a fresh breath, washing away the heavy perfume. The city below flickered. Cars, headlights, lives, guests smoked cigars, laughed loud, let ashes fall past the ashtray like tossing away old memories. On the cold stone, round marks from glasses formed faint halos. She wiped them calmly, each circle fading like a lie confessed. That's when she heard it again. The deep sound. Neither music, nor wind, nor laughter. Something in the building was breathing. A long, uneven hum rising from its core. She turned toward the wall that split the balcony from the hall. Above the wooden frame hung a costly painting, an angry sea, scars of blue paint. Right behind the frame, barely hidden, a service panel with new screws. It didn't fit. Nothing in that hall was new without reason. New screws always meant a story. "Gonna take long?" asked a man with his jacket slung over his shoulder. "Almost done," she said, eyes still on the panel. The hum stopped, and in the silence that followed, a realization. The chandelier, the hall's strange lung. Its rhythm had halted, not from stillness, but like a heart pausing before a stronger beat. Inside, the lights glowed brighter, as if someone had touched the current. She stepped back in. The music dropped, not by the DJ, but by a rumor, the kind that slides across the room ear to ear, turning into news. "The investors here. The deal signs tonight. It's a foreign fund. It'll change the city." Whispers swayed, smoother than the guests themselves. Above, the chandelier. Enormous. Crystal pendants scattering light into 1,000 shards. The frame holding it had anchors shaped like claws. She noticed what nobody did, a hairline crack near the main chain. Too small for careless eyes, too big to ignore, for someone trained to see danger where others saw sparkle. "Hey you," a rushing waiter muttered. "Watch that tray. They want us avoiding the hall center now." "Why?" "No clue. Manager's orders." She tracked his path, circling around the space under the chandelier. A choice that felt technical, a choice that felt like a warning. Had someone else seen it? Did someone know? The manager appeared, firm, cold. "Stick to the edges," he told the staff. "Don't cross the center." "Something wrong?" she asked. He froze his stare on her, as if the question was insolence. "Do what I said." She looked up again. The crack hadn't grown, yet, but the hall felt heavier. And the night now, carried a secret. "If that falls," she whispered to herself. "Sorry?" A man's voice, close. She turned. The older gentleman, the one who asked for a cloth. He held a glass of wine like a fragile book. "You said something." "Just thinking out loud. I admire those who think out loud while others hide behind whispers." The announcement came. A soft jingle. The DJ lowered the sound. The host climbed onto a small stage. "Friends," he said, voice trained, warmth rehearsed, "thank you for being here. Tonight we celebrate more than a win. We celebrate what can be built when we trust each other." Applause, flashes. A sea of faces turned toward the stage like obedient sunflowers. Nobody looked up. Almost nobody. She did. The crack in the metal pulsed, not with light but shadow. A faint release. The chain stretched a hair past its limit. A vibration crawled from ceiling to column, down to the floor beneath her feet. Through the sole of her plain shoe, she felt the signal metal gives when begging for rescue. "Excuse me," she told the passing manager. "The chandelier—" "Don't you dare. I saw if you cause panic, you're out." She swallowed the reply. His fear wasn't hers. His fear was of a stain on reputation. Hers was of a stain on marble soaked with blood. The speech went on. Investors nodded. The city listened. And the secret above, breathing, rehearsed its fall. Then a hand touched her shoulder. Light, respectful. "Excuse me," a steady, curious voice said. "Could you help me with something?" She turned. The man was flawless but not shallow. His eyes crossed the room and returned whole. He didn't offer a card, a tip, or ask her name. He simply let the question hang, as if trust was given before expecting an answer. "Of course," she said. "Not here," he whispered, leaning closer. "Over there, please." He pointed toward a dimmer corner near the half-open door, the one with the new screws on the panel. "Something's happening that the rest of the room hasn't noticed yet," he said quietly, letting the music swallow his words. "And I want to check if you see what I see." She stared at him, startled. "The chandelier," he nodded, barely moving. "And more. More. The air tonight is off. They shut something they shouldn't, and opened something they didn't understand." She drew a breath. For the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible. "Who are you?" He smiled in a way no magazine could catch. "Someone who invests without letting the ceiling fall on his head." "And why call me?" "Because earlier when you caught that glass column, I saw how you held it, not out of panic but with calculation. People like that notice first." "And what do you notice now?" He looked up, then at the panel with new screws. "I see a problem needing two things: someone everyone ignores, and someone everyone listens to." From the stage, the host raised his glass. "To the future." The chandelier's chain let out a sharp, short sound only the alert caught, a crack of metal hinting that the future sometimes arrives before the toast. She inhaled. "Then let's move," she said, "before it falls." The hall felt like another world. So far from the streets she lived on, it could have been mistaken for another planet. Every detail was designed to impress. The tall walls were covered with golden panels, and between them hung modern paintings priced in millions. The marble floor mirrored the chandelier's glow like a glass lake. The tables wore pure silk cloths, and atop each sat an arrangement of imported flowers, rare orchids from countries she only knew through films. In the air, a subtle jasmine scent mixed with the aroma of the finest champagne. Music filled every corner, a blend of orchestra and electronic beats, rehearsed to please both the older and the younger millionaires packed inside. Even the sound itself felt rich. Each note seemed worth more than months of a regular wage. She moved through the room with a plain bucket, wiping unseen stains. She was unseen too. She passed among tables crowded with people dressed so bright they dazzled. Long gowns, stitched with work worth more than she could save in 10 years. Tailored suits, quiet lapels and watches made not to tell time but to weigh status. They laughed, toasted, swapped cards and promises. And she, with rough hands and worn shoes, was just a shadow among them. No one saw her. Or rather, they only noticed when they bumped her bucket or needed somewhere to drop their scorn. Her presence was a reminder that for such wealth to shine, someone had to stain their hands in the dark. "This cloth can't have marks, got it?" one of the event coordinators said, looking past her eyes. "Got it. Good, because the one paying for this won't accept flaws." She just nodded. It was always like that. One worker's mistake turned into shame for the whole crew. Back in the hall, she caught fragments of talk. "The deal closed at 300 million. The next branch will be in Dubai. The Arab fund confirmed the money." Words that felt like another tongue. 300 million didn't fit in the mind of someone counting coins for bread at the end of the week. Dubai was farther than the moon. She breathed deep. That very afternoon she had left her little boy with the neighbor, told him she'd be late, that work mattered. He just smiled and said, "Bring bread, Mom." The request stuck, echoing like an anchor among so much luxury. As she walked past the guests, she caught details no one else did. A woman with a diamond necklace smiled at all, but typed under the table, fingers frantic, as if her real world hid in the screen. A young rich man waved, telling some big investment tale, but his eyes blinked too quick, betraying nerves. Another man, looking every bit the steady businessman, pretended to listen while his glass never emptied. And it wasn't champagne, it was straight whiskey. To her eyes, the party wasn't just luxury, it was a stage of disguises. Everyone wore masks as shiny as the stones around their necks. In the corner, hired musicians played violins, trying to compete with the DJ. The mix was odd, but kept the energy alive. Each note pressed the message that tonight must be remembered, no matter the cost. She looked again at the chandelier, gigantic, heavy, hanging like a crystal blade over hundreds of heads. The crack she'd seen before never left her mind. Every step across the hall carried one thought. What if it gave way? What if the shine turned into tragedy? But she couldn't speak, couldn't interrupt. Workers had no voice. And when they dared to, they were shut down with threats of dismissal. The manager had made that clear. She passed near the main table where the host entertained investors. He spoke with confidence, laughing with partners, promising impossible profits. He seemed so steady that no one would suspect a single thing out of place. But she saw it. While he smiled, his fingers drummed against the table, a small, nervous tick disguised poorly. She knew how to read signs. Years of being unseen had taught her to notice. When you don't have a voice, you learn to watch. Across the hall, a group of rich young men laughed at some random joke. One of them pointed at her, whispered something, and the others laughed louder. She didn't hear the words, but she understood. She didn't need them to recognize the same old scene. The target was always the one who couldn't fight back. She kept steady, cleaned tables, swapped cloths, gathered glasses left in corners. The tray's weight hurt her arms, but she was used to that. What hurt was something else, the gap between that world and her own. She thought of the electric bill close to due, the late rent, the school uniform her son needed, the ache in her back with no medicine. While guests ordered more bottles of champagne, she counted how many loaves of bread she could buy with the price of a single glass. With every laugh, she felt smaller. Yet at the same time, something grew inside her. A sharp focus, almost instinct. The chandelier's groan, the hum from the hidden panel, the guards' quick glances. There was more than a party here. Something was off. On the balcony, guests talked loudly of deals and trips. She heard a woman say, "Next week, we'll dine with ministers. It's all set." Another added, "My husband closed the yacht purchase this morning." A bargain. The word stuck. Bargain. For them, millions were a bargain. For her, a bargain was buying rice on sale. As she wiped the glass marks outside, she thought how no one there imagined the woman on her knees had dreams. Simple ones but real. Give her son a home, go back to school, live without depending on favors. But to the rich eyes around her, she was nothing more than a wet rag. Inside, the mood heated, louder toasts, harder laughs, bigger promises. The DJ pushed the beat, bodies swayed as if wealth was fuel, but she felt the bigger the party grew, the weaker it stood. Like a house of cards ready to fall. That's when it happened. A dry crack, sharp, from above. She looked up. The chandelier shook. Nobody noticed, or if they did, they pretended not to. The guards exchanged quick looks and the manager frowned but said nothing. She, alone among many, was the only one to face the danger head-on. And in that instant, she understood something. No matter how much they tried to shrink her, it was exactly because she was invisible that she could see what no one else saw. The fate of that night still hung, like the chandelier itself. "You shouldn't be here, unless you're who I think." The voice came so close, she felt the air of the words brush her face. She turned slowly. It was him, the host. Not the flashy kind of millionaire, the quiet kind who weighed each syllable. His hands were in his jacket pockets, as if he walked inside his own world. And his eyes measured everything, as if life was an invisible spreadsheet. She froze for a second, damp cloth still in hand. The panel with new screws was just steps away. The hum, softer now, seemed to hold back, waiting. "Forgive me," he said with a half-smile. "The lights here trick sometimes. For a moment, I thought you were the Eastern European guest I was expecting. Me, your stance, steady, sharp eyes, and this dress, He noticed the apron. The smile faded a fraction. Or maybe I was mistaken. Two aides appeared like shadows. "Sir, the fund investor is waiting." 2 minutes. He didn't look away from her. "May I ask a question?" She nodded, surprised at the courtesy. "When the chandelier cracked, you looked up before everyone else." Heard it. Heard what? Tired metal. His brow lifted. Curious. Name. She swallowed. Doesn't matter. It does to me. I'm cleaning staff. That's not a name. She hesitated. Clara. Clara, he repeated, testing the sound. Come with me, please. The aides glanced at each other, unsettled. The millionaire led Clara down the side corridor, the one ending at the half-open door. Along the way, they passed guests pretending not to see, and others staring as if she were a flaw in the most expensive painting. "Sir, this isn't proper," the manager whispered, appearing from nowhere. "The team should remain where skill is required." He cut in, without raising his voice. "Thank you, Gustavo." They reached the alcove. There, the sound of the party faded, as if the wall itself drank the music. The panel with the new screws had the coldness of something made too recently. Clara stopped in front, her eyes catching details. Fresh scratches, a slipped wrench mark, a strip of tape cut just a little off. "What do you see?" he asked. "Someone worked here today." "I saw it too," said the steady voice behind them. The older man from before, now showing a small badge inside his jacket pocket. He stepped closer with respect. "Forgive me, I overheard. I'm Vitali, structural engineer, friend of the host. I haven't been able to relax since I noticed the chandelier's anchors." The millionaire nodded a greeting. "I thought I was just being paranoid." Vitali looked at Clara. "But you noticed first. I just work here." The millionaire glanced back toward the hall, calculating the timing of the speech, the mood of the crowd, the weight above. "Gustavo," he called. The manager came almost running. "Sir, I want this panel open, now. That's technical. And, excuse me, I fear opening it could cause panic." "Panic is what happens when the ceiling falls," Vitali said flatly. "Bring the maintenance lead," ordered the millionaire. "And ladders for the chandelier. 2 of them." "Sir, in public?" "The chandelier is in public." While the manager rushed off, Vitali pulled a small flashlight from his pocket. "Excuse me." He lit the panel's edges. "Stainless steel. New screws, yes, but not tightened with the same torque. See? Head is worn." Clara leaned in, recognizing the pressure marks. "Tool used in a hurry." Vitali smiled, pleased. "You've got an eye. Cleaning teaches you to notice what others leave behind," she said, almost without meaning to. The millionaire watched quietly, weighing more than the panel. He was weighing the people. "Sir!" The manager returned with a man in a grey uniform carrying a case. The technician avoided Clara's eyes. "I'm responsible. What's the issue?" "Open it," said the millionaire. "But sir, this is a restricted area. You'd rather sign the report after..." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The tech gave in. With the right tool, he unlocked 2 latches. The panel opened with a metallic sigh. Behind it, cables, ducts, a junction box with green LEDs. One LED blinked wildly. Another was dark, dead. "What does it mean?" asked the millionaire. "Could be overload," the tech muttered, "or a bad bypass." "Done by who?" Not me, sir. Today I only approved the team." "What team?" "The supplier's guys for the lighting. They swapped a burnt driver last week." "Last week?" Vitali frowned. "Then why are the screws so fresh?" The tech stammered. "Maybe they rechecked today." Clara pointed at a crooked yellow sticker. "That tag's from a new batch. Today." The millionaire studied her for a long second, as though rearranging chess pieces in his head. "Gustavo, stop people moving under the chandelier, quietly, and kill half the center lights, make it look like part of the show. I need time." Gustavo nodded, uneasy. "Yes, sir." He vanished again. "If this driver's been bypassed," Vitali said, "the system's weight could be misbalanced. And if they tampered with the load from the machine room..." "I heard the building breathe," Clara whispered. "Breathe." A hum that came and went, like something opening and shutting, here and at the chandelier. The rhythm shifted when the DJ changed tracks, but it wasn't the music. Vitali exchanged a quick look with the millionaire. Air pressurization, or breakers flipping. If someone rewired to handle those stage LEDs, it could have thrown the chandelier's circuit off balance. "Translation?" the millionaire asked. "The ceiling is running on a failing heart," said Vitali. From the hall came loud applause. The toast had ended, and the guests began to spread out. Danger grew with every careless step under the looming rain of crystal. The sweating tech poked through the box. "There's a jumper here that doesn't belong. Whoever did this worked fast and left no record." "Fix it," the millionaire said. "If I touch it live, I could cut half the hall's power." "Then cut it." "But the investors, they'd rather sit in the dark than lie in the morgue," the millionaire snapped. "Do it." The tech drew a deep breath and began. Vitaly watched close, ready to stop a mistake. Clara, with the reflex of someone who's patched many messes before, stepped back 2 paces, already marking a safe spot in case sparks flew. The millionaire noticed again. Her body chose safety without thought. "Clara," he said, speaking her name like a signed pact, "how did you spot it first?" "Because everyone looks at the shine. I look at the shadows." A brief silence. "And what's it like working here? Always watching the shadows." "It makes sure I remember I exist." He nodded, as if saving the reply for later. "When this is over, I want you to show me the hidden map of this house. Doors no one uses, noises no one hears, steps no one notices. Why? Because those who polish the shine usually forget where the fire begins." The manager returned. The center lights were dimmed. The DJ agreed to switch tracks. "But the press is nearby, sir. We need to protect the image." "Protect life, Gustavo," the millionaire corrected. "An image can be rebuilt. Bones can't." A crack. Louder. The hall froze. Some eyes lifted. Others pretended not to hear. At the invincible youth table, the joke carried on, louder. Bravado of those who mistake noise for safety. 30 seconds left," said the tech, fingers quick among wires. "I'll cut and reconnect to the backup. It'll flicker." "Do it," said Vitaly. "On 3. 1, 2. The hall sank into sudden midnight. A collective "oh," half shock, half childlike thrill. The DJ fired an effect, saving the story. A track switch, play of shadows, immersive show. The guards' flashlights lit up like tamed fireflies. Part of the spectacle claimed the grins of those who understood nothing. Above, the chandelier groaned like an old ship. The chain trembled. No snap came. The dead LED revived, glowing steady green. The rogue jumper vanished under skilled hands. Power returned in waves, timid first, then full. Applause rose in a corner, spreading, the crowd celebrating without knowing why. The danger had stepped back, for now. "Stabilized," said the tech, relieved. "But we must check the machine room and the chandelier mount. This was a high-risk patch job." "Who cleared that outside crew?" asked the millionaire, calm but firm. The manager lowered his eyes. "In the report. It shows your approval, sir." The air shifted, cold, in a new way. The millionaire stayed silent a long beat, then turned to Clara. "Sometimes it isn't what we sign. It's what they let look like we signed," Vitaly added. "Someone counted on the sparkle to hide the rush." A group of guests approached, full of themselves. The perfume woman led, sharp as a blade. "Everything fine with the light show?" "Quite creative." "Ah, and what a quaint sight," she said, scanning Clara head to toe. "The cleaning staff getting special attention. Bravo, sir. Inclusion is the new luxury." Snickers followed. Clara clenched the cloth in her hand but didn't bow her head. The millionaire smiled with a courtesy that cut. Indeed, sometimes the only one who sees in time is the one who clears what others leave behind. The woman rolled her eyes. "So poetic." "Practical," he corrected. Across the room, the foreign investor waved, beckoning. The host had to go. He looked at Vitaly. "Watch the structure." "I will." Then he looked at Clara. Last. "You're coming with me." The aides widened their eyes. "Sir, the table can wait." He offered his arm, not as chivalry but as equality. "I want you near when they ask easy questions. You'll remind me of the hard ones." Clara hesitated a beat, not from fear, but from the weight of stepping where she'd never been invited. She moved, one step, another. The floor felt new under her feet. As they crossed the velvet curtain, eyes stabbed into her like splinters, curiosity, disdain, surprise, irritation. The invincible youth group muttered loud enough to carry VIP with a broom, guest of the mop. Maybe she's the new art curator, art of cleaning. Laughter. She stopped, met them with her eyes only, said nothing. This silence wasn't submission, it was statement. The laughter lost breath, like hitting glass where they expected air. They reached the main table. The foreign investor, a man with a groomed beard and a gaze that weighed fortunes, extended his hand to the host. "Congratulations on tonight." "Thank you." The millionaire gestured naturally. "This is Clara." "Pleasure," said the investor without pause. He shook her hand like any executive's. "Roll?" Clara drew a breath. "I make sure things don't fall when they shine." The investor smiled with genuine interest. "Then you are essential." "Yes," the host answered. "That's why she's here." The manager appeared, pale, holding a tablet. "Sir, there's a problem." Another, maybe the same, but elsewhere. He turned the screen. A camera showed the backstage area, thick cables, speakers, an open case. A man in a cap, badge flipped backward, fiddled where he shouldn't. He glanced around, checked his phone, swapped one cable for another. "He's not ours," the tech said over his shoulder. Vitali narrowed his eyes. "This isn't just a shortcut. It's sabotage." The hall's heart pounded again, not from the speakers, but from the eyes that met, from masks slipping an inch. The millionaire set down his glass. When he spoke, his voice cut like a blade without spilling blood. "Seal all service exits. No panic. Internal communication only by text. Stabilize the chandelier and tighten the perimeter. And bring the man with the cap here. Quietly." He turned to Clara. "You said you look at shadows. I need you to tell me where else they are." She nodded, feeling a courage that had never asked permission. "Start with the temporary bar and the generator wing, and move the DJ's spot. The music should cover us, not them." The investor tilted his head, impressed. "Interesting." The millionaire smiled faintly. "I told you the hard questions would come from her." Clara drew a deep breath. She had crossed the line between the one who cleans and the one who decides, not by invitation, but by urgency. And for the first time that night, the shine didn't blind her. It lit the way. The hall pulsed again, as if nothing had happened. The music picked up, glasses clinked, and the sparkle of gowns blinded careless eyes. But at the center of that luxury choreography, there was an unseen crack. The host walked side by side with Clara, and people noticed. The whispers began in waves. First, sidelong glances, then raised brows, followed by muffled giggles. Soon the current of mockery spread through whole groups. To them, it was unthinkable that a woman in plain uniform shared space with millionaires dressed like magazine princes. "Look at that! The gentleman decided to invest in social causes," a deep-voiced businessman said, loud enough to be heard. "Maybe it's performance art," added another, laughing. "The art of cleaning, turned into spectacle." The laughter scraped the air, but Clara didn't look away. She stayed steady, as if the words were nothing more than dust on marble. The millionaire stopped before the main table. "Gentlemen," he said calmly, "this is Clara, and believe me, she has seen more tonight than any of you." An uneasy silence spread for a moment. Then the perfume woman, always her, struck. "With all due respect, sir, but tonight's event is serious. We have international investors, journalists, officials, bringing a worker to the main table. Don't you think that's excessive?" The millionaire didn't rush to reply. He looked each face in the eye, one by one, until the discomfort outweighed the provocation. Then he said, "What you call excessive, I call smart, because when the ceiling almost came down on you, she noticed first. Not your eyes drowned in champagne. Not your ears stuffed with laughter." The words sliced through the hall like invisible blades. The woman arched her brows, trying to hold her pose. "Then let's applaud the sensitivity of the worker." She clapped slowly, sarcastically. A few joined in, laughing. Clara's heart raced, but she didn't step back. She inhaled and said, calm but firm, "The problem is, you confuse silence with inferiority. I may mop the floor, but I can also see what you don't. And today, that saved the party." The group laughed louder, like people who can't stand losing control. "What a nice speech," sneered a young man in an expensive suit. "Will you teach us risk management now, or keep sweeping?" This time Vitaly stepped in. Standing tall, lantern still in hand, he said, "I'm a structural engineer, and I confirm every word she said. If the system had failed, we'd have had disaster here, but she caught it first. And if you struggle to accept that, maybe learn to live with inconvenient truths." An awkward hush filled the air. Some looked away, others cleared throats. The mocking young man lowered his voice, muttering a joke only for his group. But the tension was already exposed. The foreign investor, silent until now, chose to speak. His deep voice carried the calm of someone who never needs to prove himself. "In my business, I always listen to those closest to the ground. Because the ground shows the first signs. Those who only look from above usually fall without noticing." His words rang like a verdict. Suddenly the laughter sounded small, almost childish. The millionaire lifted his glass, seizing back the scene. "Let's toast not only to the future, but to truth, because wealth without truth is just a set piece." The glasses rose, even if some did so begrudgingly. Clara, however, raised no glass. She just stood firm, carrying the invisible dust of every time she'd been ignored. But now, for the first time, she could not be unseen. And it was in that moment, when silence seemed ready to settle, that a new sound ripped the air, a metallic crash from backstage. The guards reacted at once, speaking through radios. The manager turned pale. Vitaly's head snapped toward the sound, alert. And the millionaire, never losing composure, only said, "This is proof the shadows haven't finished speaking." His eyes locked on Clara. "Are you ready to keep seeing what others refuse to?" She nodded without hesitation. And while the guests tried nervous laughter to hide their unease, the night was splitting in two, between those who still believed it was just a party and those who knew something far greater was at stake. The metallic crash echoed like thunder inside the glittering hall. It wasn't the sound of a dropped glass or a tray hitting the floor. It was deep, dry, heavy, something from the guts of the building. Conversations broke for a beat, eyes darted for answers. Some chuckled nervously, others joked, "Must be the DJ overdoing the effects." But Clara knew better. The millionaire rose slowly from the table, eyes narrowed. Vitaly was already moving toward the noise, flashlight in hand, every step deliberate. Clara followed without thinking, as though part of an unseen script. "Stay calm, gentlemen," the manager said, forcing control. It was only a backstage adjustment. But his voice convinced no one, least of all the sharper guests, now whispering worriedly. Beyond the velvet curtain, the backstage corridor was half in shadow. Emergency lights washed the walls in a red hue. The sound was back, pulsing unevenly, like a heart out of rhythm. Vitaly crouched at a half-open metal box. Inside, thick cables lay loose like exposed snakes. "This wasn't an accident," he muttered. "Someone tampered with it." Clara stepped closer. Footprints marked the thin dust on the ground. Boots. Fresh. "He could still be here," she whispered. Suddenly, a snap echoed above. The chandelier groaned again, louder this time. Crystals quivered, scattering restless light across the ceiling. A few guests glanced upward, uneasy. One woman let out a muffled scream, quickly drowned by the music. "If that gives way now, it'll be a tragedy," Vitaly said, looking up at the millionaire. "It won't give way," he replied, steady. "Not while we're watching." The manager rushed in, face white. "Sir, there's a burst pipe in the kitchen. Water is spreading toward the power cables. If we don't stop it fast—" "Curious," the millionaire cut in. "All this on the same night. Coincidence, maybe." "Coincidences don't exist in business." Clara drew a deep breath. A burnt odor was seeping into the jasmine perfume that filled the hall. Not open fire, overheated wires. She knew that smell. She had smelled it in her own house when an old extension cord nearly caught the bedroom alight. "If water hits those cables, the whole floor shorts out," Vitaly said. "What do you suggest?" the millionaire asked. "We need to cut partial power, discreetly clear some of the hall, and isolate the zone. But if we do it now, The event spins out of control. As they debated, Clara watched details. A waiter passed with a tray, but his hand shook too much. His eyes darted, avoiding theirs, as if carrying more than glasses. She narrowed her gaze. The tray was far too heavy for only 5 flutes. "Wait," she said, stepping into his path. The waiter froze, startled. "Excuse me, I need to serve. Show me what's there." He stalled, long seconds. Then slowly, he pulled back a cloth draped over part of the tray. Beneath the glasses, hidden, was a small black device with short wires and a blinking LED. "Explosive?" Vitaly whispered. "No," Clara said, eyes fixed. "Electrical. Some kind of transmitter, maybe to overload the grid." The millionaire picked it up with unnerving calm, like a chess piece. "Not explosive, but destructive." "I didn't know," the waiter stammered, sweating. "Someone gave it to me, said it was decorative lighting." "Who gave it?" A man in a cap badge flipped. The same one they'd seen on camera. The millionaire drew a long breath, reining in anger. "We're dealing with sabotage. Clara, Vitaly, we need to think like them. Where else would they place something like this?" Clara didn't hesitate. "Near the sound generators, and at the secondary power entrance by the balcony." "Exactly," Vitaly said. "If they overload both points at once, the system collapses, and the chandelier becomes the final spark." From the hall, another wave of laughter tried to mask the tension. The guests still had no idea what was truly at stake, but it wouldn't stay hidden much longer. The millionaire turned to Clara. "You're coming with me. I need you to show me exactly where those points are. The others still think you're invisible, and that's exactly what we need right now." Clara swallowed and nodded. It was true. The invisibility that had always been her prison was now her weapon. They moved down the narrow corridors. With every step, the party noise faded. The air grew heavier, the smell of burnt wire stronger. The danger felt more real. "If we find another device, what do we do?" Clara asked. "We isolate it," Vitaly answered. "And if there's no time, we cut everything. And if we cut, the whole hall goes dark," the millionaire said. "Better darkness than ruins," Clara shot back. They reached the first technical room. The sound was deafening. Fans, machines, cables humming. There in the corner, another blinking device, identical to the one on the tray. "There!" Clara pointed. Vitaly rushed over and clipped the wires with improvised pliers. The LED went out. "One down," he said. "But how many are still active?" Above them, another creak from the chandelier echoed like a warning. Time was running out. The millionaire looked at Clara. "The party masks are falling. Now we must decide. Keep hiding the truth to save appearances, or face the chaos to save lives." Clara breathed deep, eyes shining with something she'd never had before. Permissionless courage. This is no longer a choice. If we don't act now, there won't be a tomorrow for anyone in here. In that moment, the millionaire realized the woman everyone humiliated was the only one able to carry the weight of the night's most important decision. Clara stopped in the tight corridor, between the fan's buzz and the cable's tremor. The smell of hot wire scratched her throat. She closed her eyes for an instant and did what she always did when life tightened, turned the chaos into small steps. When she opened them, she already had a plan. "We split into 3 fronts," she said without hesitation. "First, neutralize the devices and stabilize the power. Second, quietly clear the area beneath the chandelier. Third, capture the man with the cap without causing panic." Vitaly nodded, alert. The millionaire simply watched her, and in his look was something new: trust. Gustavo, the manager, scratched his neck impatiently. "With all due respect," he began, "this is a high-end event. Evacuation routes, closing areas, this will ruin—" "It will save," Clara cut in quietly. "Pick your verb later." Gustavo tightened his lips but stayed. Practical Vitaly opened his case and pulled out tape, cable ties, and a voltage tester. "Tell me where first," he said to Clara. "Temporary bar," she answered. "The secondary power feed runs behind the baseboard. If they put a transmitter there, it's the part that links the rest." The millionaire touched the radio in his jacket. Security team, 2 people at the bar, no visible uniform. Tell the bartender we're swapping the tap. They lift the baseboard. And no glass crosses the hall center. Sir, that'll draw attention, Gustavo warned. Then make it a show, the millionaire said. Tell the DJ to announce a sensory experience and move the crowd to the balcony for 3 minutes. Turn the dance lights to the sides. The middle clears. Gustavo grumbled but left. Vitali was already walking. Clara followed. They returned to the bar. Foam rose like a magic trick, and the laughter over it sounded like misinformed applause. The bartender widened his eyes at the instruction, but complied. 2 guards took discreet positions. Clara knelt and ran her fingers along the baseboard until she found the right spot. The wood slightly cooler, a screw with a fresh mark. Here, she lifted the panel carefully. Behind it, neat cables, and among them the black little box, the sibling of the others, its LED pulsing. Borrowed heart, she murmured. Let's pull it out. Vitali cut the feed with the tester and then isolated the transmitter with efficient moves. The LED went dark. The bar got a second of silence, as if the music inside had taken a deep breath. Nobody noticed. Maybe only the ears that were already listening did. 2 down, Vitali said, putting the device in an envelope. And one more problem. Whoever installed this knew the power map better than many teams. He isn't working alone, Clara said. There's someone inside. Allegations. Gustavo reappeared, blowing indignation. We won't accuse staff without proof. No time for pride, the millionaire said sharply. The man in the cap? Seen near the generator wing. But the camera is offline. Clara inhaled. Someone turned it off on purpose. He's moving the pieces in the dark. Then we make our own shadow, the millionaire said. DJ, transition now. The music changed. A low bass swept the hall, sidelights swept the walls, and the center cleared as smoothly as a well-told trick. People laughed, phones raised, calling the moment immersive. Under the shine, the security repositioned the tables a step out from beneath the chandelier, millimeters that tonight meant lives. The perfume woman reappeared, her gaze sharp. The concept is bold, she said to the host, but it's turning into a circus. What charm has a party where even the staff gives orders? The charm of keeping everyone standing at the end, he replied, not bothering to smile. And her? The woman pointed at Clara. Is she choreographing the dance floor too? Wouldn't it be better to send her back to her duties? My duty, Clara said, is to make sure nothing falls, including the masks. Some laughed awkwardly. Others went deadly serious. The guard's radio crackled. Movement backstage. The guy ran toward the machine room. The millionaire nodded, and the 2 guards by the service door were authorized to quietly close access. 2 more circled the stage. Clara, Vitali said, if it were him, where would he hide the final piece? In a place too obvious to seem suspicious, she answered at once. At the base of the chandelier's pedestal, everyone looks up. Almost no one looks at the foot of danger. Vitali looked at her like someone given a map. Let's go. They arrived at the base of the central column, anchoring the chandelier cables inside the ceiling. Around it, floral arrangements and a ring of gold rope formed a false shrine. Clara moved 2 flowers aside, ran her hand along the baseboard until she felt the click of a disguised cap. She pulled. There it was, a smaller transmitter, short antenna, and a micro-timer. The final strike, Vitali said, tense. When the others saturate, this would push it over. How much time? Asked the millionaire. Hard to say. Could be remote, could be when the load returns. Clara looked up to the chain that a few minutes earlier had begged for help. If we disconnect abruptly, a surge might pull the wrong weight. Then isolate without the yank, said Vitali. You hold the flowers. I'll remove it like pulling a thorn. Ready, Clara said, breathing steady. Go. The engineer worked with the patience of someone who knows a tiny mistake costs dearly. Unplug, cut, isolate, hold. The LED blinked twice and died in a silent surrender. The chandelier did not moan. The hall's air, for a fraction of a second, seemed to return to normal. 3, Vitali counted. If there's a fourth, it's redundancy. But those who build redundancy plan an escape. He glanced around, and he's looking for the door. Service door's locked, the radio reported. But there are too many people on the balcony. A shove, and it's headline. Let's give them a thread of novelty, the millionaire said, summoning a maître. In 2 minutes at most, serve mini desserts, chef's surprise, starting on the balcony. Sugar and spectacle soothe the edges. This isn't a wedding, Gustavo grumbled. It's turning into a police operation. It's a living night, Clara replied, and we're stopping it from becoming an obituary. Gustavo shot her a look. You forgot where you came from. Clara did not flinch. It was my place that kept the ceiling over your head. The manager opened his mouth to retort, but the millionaire laid a light, yet inexorable hand on his shoulder. Gustavo, do your job. He went. The radio jittered again. Backstage clear. Suspect not present. Doc camera. Still down. Clara felt a prick of intuition, that chill that had always saved her when the world tried to crush her. He didn't run far, she said, as certain as fact. He pulled back close. Close to what? Vitaly asked. To whoever protects him, she answered, and her eyes, drawn as if by an old magnet, landed on a simple detail. The manager's tablet, resting on a counter nearby, with a pop-up notification too quick to be casual reading. A maintenance app icon blinked and vanished. What was that? She asked. Supplier report, Gustavo returned, wearing his usual offended air. Routine at... She checked the analog clock on the wall. 23:17 in the middle of the mess. Are you accusing me? He laughed, short and metallic. Watch your tongue. I'm accusing the pattern, Clara said. Sabotage needs 2 things, a map and plausibility. You have both. That's enough, the millionaire intervened, not to shield him, but to speed things up. Gustavo, unlock dock access and call the police with a silent code. And hand your tablet to Vitaly. This is abuse, he protested. This is my house, the host said, calm. And you work in it. Tablet. For a second, the manager hesitated, a second that told its own stories. Then he handed it over. Vitaly scrolled fast. Direct messages with the supplier, attachments of wiring diagrams, and a hotfix instruction sent 40 minutes ago. The sender's email is an alias. But the IP, he looked at the millionaire. It comes from inside the network. Someone here cloned credentials, Clara said, or had them handed over. Gustavo went pale. I didn't. Later, the host cut him off. Now, the man in the cap. As if the name itself called him, a movement at the balcony's edge drew 2 guards. A shadow slipped behind a pillar and vanished into the corridor leading to the loading dock. The guards ran, but the flow of guests, now stirred up by free dessert, formed a human blockade. Clara, said the millionaire, you know this maze better than all of us. Where does he run? He doesn't, she answered without pause. He tries the dock, hits the gate, doubles back through the trash hall, cuts into laundry, aims for the service elevator, which has been locked since earlier, and ends up with only one choice, stairwell B, which leads straight behind the machine room. Then we go above, Vitaly said. They ran. The hall's noise stayed behind like a distant sea. The laundry corridor smelled of bleach and iron carts. Clara flipped a switch few knew about, one that lit the whole ceiling without blinding the eyes. To blind whoever came from the dark, she explained, almost smiling at an old trick. They reached stairwell B. Somewhere below, hurried steps. The millionaire gestured 2 guards down the floors to close the funnel from beneath. No shoving, no shouting. At the landing near the machine room, heat slammed like a guard dog, door ajar. Clara pressed her ear, heard a different hum, not motors, but held breath. She signaled with her hand, 1, 2, 3. They entered. The man in the cap was hunched over an auxiliary panel, fingers on wires like someone erasing his own tracks. When he raised his face, his eyes held no shock, only calculation. He saw the millionaire, saw Vitaly, stopped at Clara, and laughed, short. The cleaning lady. She's the one who saw you, Clara said. He pulled something from his pocket, not a gun, not a knife, a cheap remote, 1 button. No, Vitali moved. Too late. The click was already done. Silence. Then nothing. The man pressed again. Nothing. Again. Nothing. Clara raised the small transmitter Vitali had disabled minutes before, now dead in its envelope. "You lost the lungs," she said, and the heart gave out. The man's laugh crumbled, and the guard's steps filled the rest. Seconds later he was restrained, hands behind him, remote on the floor. The millionaire stepped close, eyes calm as a blade's edge. "Who pays you?" "You pay yourselves," the man spat, "with your own arrogance." Translation: "Nobody brave enough to sign the check," Clara said. Gustavo arrived, pale, sweating, tie askew. What happened?" Clara faced him. "What always happens when we sweep, the dirt that was invisible decides to show itself." Vitali shut the panel with one last firm twist. "Power stable. Devices neutralized. Structure safe. For now." He exhaled deep. "But the real balance isn't settled yet." "What balance?" the millionaire asked. "Trust," Vitali said, "among the people in here." The host looked at Clara. "You said you have an invisible map of this place. Show me." "After dessert," she replied. "Because now we need to return the hall without panic. The party isn't over. It just changed owners." "Owners? Fear." He smiled, brief and true. "Then let's put it back where it belongs, outside." When they returned to the hall, music still painted the air, sidelights cutting across faces less arrogant. The chandelier, sovereign, breathed quiet. The perfume woman stared, sensing what she couldn't control. The foreign investor lifted his glass toward Clara, not as a trophy, but as recognition. And while the man in the cap was taken out another door, escorted without spectacle, the night found a new axis, invisibility now dictating what was visible. And still, disbelief didn't die. It only changed clothes, waiting for the next chance to sneer. The hall no longer carried the same lightness as before. Guests kept smiling, toasting, pretending nothing had changed, but the air grew denser, as if everyone felt, without admitting, that something unseen hung above their heads. The chandelier, silent, seemed to watch it all, and each faint creak in the ceiling made eyes glance upward just for a second before dropping back to their glasses. Clara walked beside the millionaire, with Vitali close behind. The perfume woman and her group didn't resist. They opened space only to whisper later, poison served in careful doses. "Probably theater," one murmured. "Or the boss's whim," another said. "Pathetic. Making us believe a cleaning woman knows more than engineers." Clara heard every word. All her life, she'd been reduced to that, the one left to clean what remained. But that night, fate left no room for her to be just rag and silence. Manager Gustavo hurried back. "Sir," he said to the host, "the press is pushing for a statement about the art blackout. They want to know if it was a technical failure." "And what did you say?" asked the millionaire. "That it was part of the show, but they keep pressing." Before the host could reply, Clara stepped in. "Hiding won't help. If you lie now, when the truth comes out, they'll turn this into scandal." "And what do you suggest?" the millionaire asked. "Tell them what happened, but tell it right. Show it wasn't weakness. Show it was strength." Gustavo nearly choked. "Strength in admitting the system failed, that kills contracts." "It failed because it was sabotaged," Clara said firmly. "And it wasn't a random guest who noticed. It was the house itself, the one you all ignore every day. Show there's no room for arrogance here." The millionaire stared at her for long seconds. Then he stepped onto the small stage again. The DJ lowered the music, and the hall fell into expectation. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began calm, "you may have noticed some adjustments with light and power tonight. No, it wasn't a planned show. It was reality. Someone tried to sabotage this party. And do you know why nothing fell on your heads? Because among you, a woman saw what no one else would." Eyes turned to Clara, some disbelieving, others curious, many mocking. "Her name is Clara," he continued. "She is on this house's cleaning staff, and she was the first to spot the risk. Without her, we'd be in panic now, maybe even mourning. So raise a glass, not to wealth on display, but to courage that stays quiet. Raise a glass to truth. A strange silence spread through the hall. Some clapped weakly without conviction. Others forced smiles, but the perfume woman, unable to yield, shot back. With all respect, sir, it isn't wise to credit the safety of hundreds to someone untrained. It's reckless. She may have helped, but turning this into spectacle is ridiculous. Her group's laughter echoed, and then Clara, for the first time, stepped forward. Her heart pounded, but her voice came out steady, clear as her own name. "Want proof?" she asked, staring straight at the woman. "Look up." Everyone followed her gesture. The chandelier shone, seemingly steady, but Clara pointed with precision. "On the third chain, right side, there's a micro crack. No one here saw it, but I did. And if you want, bring a ladder now. Whoever doubts can climb with me." A murmur swept the hall. Some guests laughed nervously, others muttered it was exaggeration. But the millionaire signaled, and 2 guards brought a tall aluminum ladder. "You'll really allow this?" Gustavo whispered. "I will," said the host. "Truth fears no height." The ladder was set under the chandelier. The hall held its breath. Clara gripped the rungs, climbing slowly. The sound of her shoes on metal echoed louder than the music. Each rung was defiance against the arrogance of those who mocked. Each step a silent cry against years of invisibility. At the right spot, she pointed. "Here!" Vitali climbed just behind, checked with his flashlight. The beam revealed the crack, small but real. A cut in the metal that shouldn't exist. He turned to everyone. "She's right." A murmur rippled through the hall. The perfume woman flushed, trying to mask her shock with a dry laugh. "Too small to matter." "Small today," Vitali replied. "Tomorrow, maybe not. If no one had seen it, sooner or later the weight would have done the rest." Clara descended the ladder to applause, this time louder, more genuine. Not from all, but from many. Some clapped to ease the tension, others because they truly understood. The foreign investor was the first to raise his glass again. "Sometimes," he said aloud, "the most valuable eyes aren't at the top table but near the floor." Applause spread, now real, and Clara for the first time did not lower her head. The perfume woman retreated, swallowing her arrogance. The millionaire returned to the stage, closing with, "Tonight we learned something. Greatness isn't in who wears the finest suit, but in who has the courage to see what others ignore. And courage doesn't need a VIP invite." The hall erupted in applause, and in the middle of it, Clara realized that her voice, once invisible, now echoed louder than all the laughter that had ever tried to shrink her. But the danger wasn't over. A guard's radio crackled, low, almost inaudible. Clara caught the message. "Suspicious movement in the parking lot. Vehicle idling, tampered credential." The game was far from over. The applause still rang when the radio crackled again, firmer this time. "Suspicious vehicle in the parking lot. Engine running for over 20 minutes. 2 occupants inside. Forged access badge." The millionaire didn't react with panic. He simply set his glass down slowly on the table. But his eyes, cold as steel, said everything. He turned to Vitali and Clara. "This isn't over." Clara felt a chill. The chandelier above was already threat enough, but now something waited beyond the walls. If the enemy couldn't destroy from inside, they might try from outside. Manager Gustavo rushed over, visibly rattled. "Sir, I suggest we call the police immediately and evacuate the hall. It's protocol." "Evacuate?" the millionaire repeated, without raising his voice. "Do you know what that means? Hundreds running, journalists streaming, investors fleeing. A night of contracts turned into rubble. But is it safe to keep everyone here?" Gustavo pressed. Clara drew a breath. "Safe? No. But panic kills too." The foreign investor, still holding his glass, stepped in. "Perhaps this is the moment to prove if this house holds more than gold on its walls. Does it have strategy?" The millionaire looked at Clara. It was as if he asked without words. "What's next?" She swallowed her fear. First, we need to know their goal. Why keep a car idling outside? If it were just escape, they'd be gone already. If it's threat, they're waiting for the right moment. A remote trigger, Vitaly asked. Or a distraction, Clara added. At that instant, the lights in the hall flickered again, briefly, but enough to freeze the room. Conversations cut mid-sentence. Eyes shot upward toward the chandelier like a trained reflex. The DJ tried to mask it with a sound effect, but tension already filled the air. Not an internal fault, Vitaly muttered, checking his portable meter. Someone is pulling the load from outside. They're forcing the system from the lot inward. Clara closed her eyes, linking pieces. The hum she'd heard earlier, the tampered panel, the hidden devices, the idling car. They're using the vehicle as an auxiliary source, feeding the grid from outside, unbalancing it, and the breaking point is the chandelier. The millionaire murmured, mostly to himself, a trap inside the party for tomorrow's headline. Tragedy at luxury event. The attack isn't just physical, it's reputation, it's market. We need to cut the external feed, Vitaly said. Isolate the building from the parking lot. And if the car is more than that? Clara asked. If there's another device, ready to blow once they lose control? The hall, still blind to the depth of danger, was stirring. Guests whispered about the power dips. A woman muttered, "This isn't normal." Another already spoke of leaving. Fear rippled outward in waves. The millionaire raised his hand, steadying the room. His voice was firm, calculated. "Friends, just a small technical hitch, nothing more. While we adjust, enjoy the terrace, breathe the night air, try the desserts. We'll resume shortly." The crowd, obedient to money's authority, moved as told. But murmurs remained. Panic was beginning to breathe in them. "Clara," the millionaire said low, "if it were you, how would you handle the car?" She didn't hesitate. 2 steps. First, cut the power feeding the sabotage. Second, distract the occupants so they don't notice the move. If they react, we'll have time to contain. "And who does that?" Gustavo sneered. "Her? A cleaning lady against armed criminals?" Clara met his stare calmly. "It's not about fighting. It's about seeing the angle you all miss." The foreign investor chuckled lightly. "Interesting." Her invisibility turned into her edge. "Who would suspect a woman in an apron of dismantling the game?" Vitaly studied a floor map on the tablet. "We can cut access through the basement, but someone must go down there. If we cut from above, they'll notice." "Then we go below," Clara said. The millionaire looked at her, weighing the unexpected courage. "You know the risk." "I do. And I know no one will look at me twice. I'm just the cleaning lady." The manager gave a nervous laugh. "This is madness." "It's survival," Clara answered. Decided, the millionaire ordered 2 plain guards with Clara and Vitaly. "Cut the external power. I'll hold the hall steady." As they prepared, the chandelier moaned again. Louder. The crack rolled across the ceiling like a trapped storm. Some guests screamed. The party's mask was collapsing. Clara looked up. Each crystal pendulum mirrored the night's tension. The danger was sharp, imminent. Time was slipping. Vitaly motioned. "Let's go!" The 4 slipped into the service corridor, descending into the building's basement. The narrow walls smelled of oil and rust. The sound of the party vanished, replaced by the deep growl of the car engine, echoing through the metal ducts. Clara crouched, watching the floor tremble. "They're draining power straight from the underground panel. If we cut it here," Vitaly said, "they lose control, but they'll notice. That's why we need distraction," Clara replied. She turned to the guards. "Head to the parking entrance. Cause a fuss, knock down a barrier, pretend to check IDs. Make enough noise to pull their focus, but not so much that the guests panic. Once they step out of the car, we cut the feed." The men hesitated. One asked, "And if they push back?" Clara drew a steady breath. "Then you hold them off. We only need seconds." Vitaly pried open the panel box. Thick wires sparked faintly. "Ready?" "Ready," Clara said, gripping the cutter tight. The guard's voice crackled through the radio. "At the entrance, stirring things up now. Upstairs, the hall applauded a fake show the DJ had whipped together to keep spirits high. But down here, every second was a fuse burning. Footsteps. Two figures left the car in the lot, moving toward the guards. Raised voices, a staged argument. The engine kept running, but their attention was slipping away. "Now," Vitali whispered. Clara sliced the auxiliary line in one clean snap. The pop was sharp, sparking. The basement lights flickered, then steadied. The engine's roar choked, fading like it had been strangled. "We did it," Vitali said. But instantly, a shout rang from the lot. One occupant had caught on. The other yanked something from the car seat. Not a gun, not a knife, but a bigger device with a long antenna. "They've got another one!" A guard yelled into the radio. "Trying to trigger it!" Clara's stomach dropped. The game wasn't over, just leveled up. She met Vitali's eyes. "If that thing fires, we're back to square one. Or worse," he muttered. The millionaire's voice came through the radio, steady as stone. "Hold them. Whatever it takes. We're on our way." In the hall, guests still laughed, blind to the fact that above and below the night was hanging by a thread. The stakes had risen, and time was sprinting. The car's engine finally sputtered out, strangled by the cut Clara and Vitali had made. But silence didn't bring peace. It only sharpened nerves. At any second, the new device in their hands could restart the chaos. Back upstairs, the millionaire worked to keep people distracted. The DJ cranked the music, lights spun faster, and waiters handed out desserts like fireworks. But it wasn't party, it was smokescreen. The perfume woman seized her chance. She swept in with her entourage, smile dripping venom. "Funny how your event turned into theatre, sir, and with such an unusual star." Her eyes slid to Clara. "Must be inspiring for her. From mop to spotlight in one night." A few guests chuckled along. Clara's blood burned, but she held it down. Anger wouldn't win here. She simply answered, "I'd rather climb the stage for courage than fall from it for arrogance." The remark cut the air like glass. Some clapped lightly, others rolled eyes. But the sneers didn't stop. A young man in a perfect suit, ere known for flaunting wealth online, raised his glass toward Clara. "Then tell us, cleaning lady. If you're so wise, what's the next disaster? Shall we bet?" Laughter rippled around him. The scene replayed itself, everyone circling her, unable to bear her being heard. Clara lifted her gaze to the chandelier. It hung still, but she knew every creak could be the last. Then she looked back at him. "It's not about bets. It's about time. And those who toy with danger don't notice when it's already in their lap." The laughter thinned. Silence grew heavy, until the radio crackled again. "Sir, confirmed. The car device is a surge transmitter. If they fire it manually, the grid collapses again." The millionaire didn't lose composure. Isolated, for now, but they're resisting. Tension split the hall. The press was catching on. Cameras rose, masked as curiosity. Reporters scented blood. Manager Gustavo stormed close, rage tucked under concern. "With all respect, sir, we must end this charade. Call the police, clear the hall, be done. We're on the edge of ridicule, handing safety to her," he jabbed at Clara like a stain, "is tonight's worst mistake." Clara locked eyes with him. The mistake was letting the enemy walk in the front door. And someone helped. Gustavo's eyes flickered. He tried to recover. "Are you suggesting—" "I'm not suggesting. But that night, fate no longer left room for her to be just rag and silence." Manager Gustavo returned in a hurry. "Sir," he told the host, "the press is demanding a statement about the art blackout. They want to know if it was a technical failure." "And what did you say?" the millionaire asked. "That it was part of the show. But they keep pressing." Before the host could answer, Clara spoke up. "Hiding won't help. If you lie now, when the truth comes out, they'll turn it into a scandal." "And what do you suggest?" the millionaire asked. "Tell what happened, but tell it right. Show it wasn't weakness. Show it was strength." Gustavo nearly choked. "Strength, admitting the system failed, that ruins contracts." "It failed because it was sabotaged," Clara said firmly. "And it wasn't a random guest who noticed. It was the house itself. The one you ignore every day. Show there is no room here for arrogance." The millionaire stared at her for long seconds. Then he climbed the small stage again. The DJ lowered the music, and the hall fell into expectation. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began calm, "you may have noticed some light and power adjustments tonight. No, it wasn't a planned show. It was real. Someone tried to sabotage this party. And do you know why nothing fell on your heads? Because among you, a woman saw what no one else would." Eyes turned to Clara, some disbelieving, some curious, many mocking. "Her name is Clara," he continued. "She is on this house's cleaning staff, and she was the first to spot the risk. Without her, we'd be in panic now, maybe even mourning. So raise a glass, not to wealth on display, but to courage that keeps quiet. Raise a glass to truth." A strange silence swept the room. Some clapped timidly, others forced smiles. But the perfume woman, unable to relent, shot back, "With all due respect, sir, it isn't sensible to entrust the safety of hundreds to someone untrained. It's irresponsible. She may have helped, but making this a spectacle is ridiculous." Her group's laughter echoed. Then Clara, for the first time, stepped forward. Her heart beat hard, but her voice was steady, clear as her name. "Want proof?" she asked, looking straight at the woman. "Look up." Everyone followed her gesture. The chandelier glittered, seemingly stable, but Clara pointed with precision. "On the third chain, right side, there is a micro crack. No one here saw it, but I did. If you want, bring a ladder now. Whoever doubts can climb with me." A murmur ran through the hall. Some guests laughed nervously, others muttered it was an exaggeration. But the millionaire signaled, and 2 guards brought a tall aluminum ladder. "You'll allow this," Gustavo whispered. "I will," said the host. "Truth fears no height." The ladder was set under the chandelier. The hall held its breath. Clara gripped the rungs and climbed slowly. The sound of her shoes on metal rang louder than the music. Each step was defiance against the arrogance of those who mocked. When she reached the right spot, she pointed. "Here." Vitali climbed behind her and shone his light. The beam revealed the crack, small but real, a cut in the metal that shouldn't be there. He faced the crowd. "She's right." A murmur spread. The perfume woman flushed, masking shock with a dry laugh. "Too small to matter." "Small today," Vitali replied. "Tomorrow, maybe not. If no one had seen it, the weight would have done the rest." Clara came down to stronger, more sincere applause. The foreign investor raised his glass first. "Sometimes," he said, "the most valuable eyes are not at the top table but near the floor." Applause spread. Clara didn't bow her head. The perfume woman stepped back, swallowing her pride. The millionaire returned to the stage. "Tonight we learned something. Greatness isn't who wears the finest suit, but who has the courage to see what others ignore. Courage doesn't need a VIP pass." The hall erupted. In the middle of it, Clara felt her voice, once invisible, now echo louder than the laughs that had belittled her. But the danger hadn't ended. A guard's radio crackled low. Clara heard, "Suspicious movement in the parking lot, vehicle idling, forged credential." The game wasn't over. The applause still rang when the radio crackled again, firmer. "Suspicious vehicle in the lot, engine running over 20 minutes, 2 occupants inside, forged access badge." The millionaire didn't panic. He set down his glass slowly. His eyes, cold as a blade, said it all. He turned to Vitali and Clara. "This isn't over." Clara shivered. The chandelier was threat enough, but now there was something outside the walls. If the enemy couldn't break from within, they might try from without. Manager Gustavo, visibly nervous, suggested calling the police and evacuating. The millionaire weighed consequences. Panic. Journalists streaming. Contracts ruined. Clara cut in. "Safe isn't the point. Panic also kills." The foreign investor asked if the house had strategy. The millionaire looked at Clara. "What's next?" She answered, "Find their goal. Idling car isn't for escape, it's for timing. Maybe a remote detonator, or a distraction." Lights flickered again. The DJ covered it with effects. Vitali checked the panel. Someone was forcing load from outside. Clara connected the dots. The car was feeding the grid, unbalancing it so the chandelier would be the breaking point. Reputation damage, not just physical harm. They needed to cut the external connection and isolate the building from the lot. But if the car held another device, ready to explode when they lost control, that was worse. The millionaire calmed the crowd with authority. Minor technical issue. Enjoy the terrace and desserts. People moved. Murmurs persisted. Panic breathed. He asked Clara how to deal with the car. She laid out 2 steps. Neutralize the external feed, then distract the occupants so the cut goes unnoticed. Gustavo scoffed. Who'd trust a cleaning woman with criminals? The foreign investor smiled. Invisibility was their advantage. Vitali mapped basement cuts. Clara proposed going below. The millionaire ordered 2 unmarked guards to accompany Clara and Vitali. He'd keep the hall stable. The chandelier groaned again. Time ran out. They slipped into the service corridor to the basement. Walls smelled of oil and rust. The party's noise vanished, replaced by the car's low growl echoing through ducts. Clara crouched, watching the floor vibrate. They're siphoning power from the underground panel. If we cut it here, they lose control. But might notice, Vitali said. That's why we need distraction, Clara replied. She told the guards to cause a commotion at the parking entrance, enough to draw the occupants out, but not so much that guests would panic. Vitali opened the panel. Sparks danced. Ready. Clara gripped the cutter. The guards signaled the distraction had begun upstairs. 2 figures left the car and argued with the guards. Attention shifted. Now, Vitali whispered. Clara snapped the auxiliary wire, a dry pop, a spark. Basement lights flickered and steadied. The engine choked and died. They'd succeeded until a shout came from the lot. One occupant had noticed and pulled a bigger device with a long antenna from the seat. "They've got another!" The guard screamed into the radio. Clara's stomach turned. If that device triggered, everything would reset, maybe worse. The millionaire ordered, "Hold them no matter what." They were coming. The car's roar died, but silence left raw nerves exposed. Any second, that device could reawaken the chaos. Upstairs, the host tried to keep people distracted with louder music and more lights. Waiters handed desserts like fireworks. The perfume woman sneered and mocked Clara's rise from mop to spotlight. Clara restrained anger, replied calmly, "I'd rather climb the stage by courage than fall from it for arrogance." The remark cut through. Some clapped, others scoffed. A young heir mocked her, betting on the next disaster. Clara looked at the chandelier, then answered, "It's not a bet. It's a matter of time. Those who play with danger don't notice when it's in their lap." Laughter thinned. The radio confirmed, "The car device is a surge transmitter. If they trigger it manually, the grid collapses." Isolated for now, but the occupants resisted. The press was alert. Gustavo demanded police and evacuation. Clara shot back that the real mistake was letting the enemy in, hinting someone had helped. Gustavo's eyes flickered. Clara declared, "Sabotage inside doesn't happen without a guide." Guests murmured. The foreign investor raised a hand for silence and said that in his culture the first seer is protected, not dismissed. If she was right twice, why treat her invisible? The perfume woman attacked again, saying reliance on a cleaner was proof of the host's failure. The millionaire replied cold, "Maybe failure is confusing etiquette for intelligence." Half the room applauded, the other half stayed silent and uncomfortable. Then the radio hissed, "They tried to reactivate manually. We resisted, but one escaped. Direction, main entrance." Clara froze. If the man with the cap re-entered with the device, collapse would follow in seconds. "If he crosses those doors, the chandelier falls," she warned. The host stood. "We won't let him in." Gustavo fretted about headlines and cameras. Clara proposed they don't close the doors, but blind the crowd. Bigger distraction, music, lights, spectacle, make the entrance invisible. The DJ executed partial darkness, intense lighting and bass. The audience believed they were part of the show. Security moved in quietly, and when the man tried to enter, he was swallowed by the lateral darkness and quietly restrained. No screams, no panic. The hall applauded, unaware they had just saved themselves. Clara knew disbelief remained, until final proof, half the room would still call her the cleaning woman. But something inside her had shifted. She no longer cared about the label. She had saved the luxury world that night. Then the next creak came, louder than before, like a sentence. The ceiling groaned and the chandelier shuddered. Phones rose, nerves frayed. Clara said calmly, "Now, either we lower the chandelier or it lowers us." Vitali moved. "We have anchor points on the stage rigging above. If we redistribute weight, it will hold." The millionaire ordered, "Curtains closed at center, DJ low track building, lateral lights only. Waiters keep guests on the edges with desserts. Security tighten the inner perimeter quietly and bring 2 chain hoists, textile slings and tower ladders. Run." Gustavo hesitated, then ran. Clara climbed the aluminum ladder again, steady despite the vertigo. "Vitali, I need your shoulder on the 3rd chain." "I'm here," he said, flashlight in his teeth, tool belt ready. The hall split into 2 worlds, the visible, champagne, violins keeping up appearances, and the invisible, wires, calculations, courage. Technicians unpacked chain hoists like defibrillators. The perfume woman objected, "This is absurd. Will you turn my table into a construction site?" Clara didn't look at her. "Prefer a memorial?" The woman swallowed and took 2 steps back, learning late what many learn too late. Some lines don't survive the weight of reality. "Anchor A ready!" a tech called from the grid. "Anchor B ready!" came the other side. "Attach the slings to the crown of the chandelier," Vitali said. "Off the axis of the crack. No tension until I give the word." Clara examined the micro crack by flashlight. It was no longer micro. A spider of shadow spread across the tired metal. "It widens when the room heats up," she murmured. "Thermal loads stretch the gap. Then we cool its head," Vitali replied, almost smiling. "Bring dry ice." "Dry ice?" The manager frowned. "To slow expansion and buy us 2 minutes," Clara explained. 2, not 3. The cylinders arrived. Clara, gloved, sprayed the cold mist around the piece. The metal whined with a thin ring, a protest that sounded like survival. From the radio, "Car neutralized, 2nd device seized. Main entrance clear." "Hold position," said the millionaire. "The stage is now the ceiling." A violin played a long note, and the side lights cut faces that no longer laughed. The foreign investor stepped near the barrier, but didn't cross. "Do you need me?" "I need you not to get in the way," Clara answered, honest as steel. He nodded, respecting the only rule that mattered: competence. "Ready for auxiliary pull," Vitali announced. "On my count." "1," said Clara, eyes locked on the crack. "2," answered the engineer, hand on the ratchet. "3." The hoists sang a harsh hymn, links rising inch by inch, and the chandelier, that invisible tyrant, began to obey. The hall moaned low, as if the building itself held its breath with them. "Stabilizing at 4 points," said Vitali. 2 more degrees on the east side." 2 degrees, Clara repeated, and the techs obeyed, trained by urgency. Gustavo appeared pale, clutching a tablet like someone who had seen the cliff up close. "The press asks what's happening." "Tell the truth," said the millionaire. "We're lowering Pride to the floor." Another crack, sharper. Clara felt it in her body before hearing. "Stop." The crack shifted. Vitali shined the light. She was right. The load had moved the pane. The metal begged for help somewhere else. "Plan B," Clara said. "Support from below." "Support how?" "With what you have plenty of." She pointed at the glass columns of the floral displays. "Acrylic shells with rubber rings. Strip the flowers, keep the bases, push them to the center. We'll build a temporary cradle." "It'll scratch the marble," someone protested. "It'll save necks," Clara shot back, already kneeling to place the first base. "Bring felt, thick napkins. Make a soft, tall ring." In minutes, the crew dismantled a world of decor to build a circle of padded stands. The chandelier, still held by hoists, now had a bed if the anchors failed. "Controlled descent in 5, Vitali called. 4, 3, 2, hold, shouted a tech. "South cable jammed. Release with side sling," Clara instructed. "Don't drop weight. Ease the north." The hall was now all ear and hand. The DJ fell silent. Violins stood alone, fragile. At the invincible youth table, no one filmed anymore. They finally understood. There are moments you pocket your phone to keep your life. "South cable free. Lower 2 centimeters, Vitali ordered. Now. The chandelier's bottom rim kissed the padded ring with the sound of crystal meeting cradle. For a few seconds, no one breathed. Then, like the sea returning to shore, a collective sigh swept the room. It hadn't fallen. It had come down. "Bind the set with X-shaped straps," Clara said. "Double them. Rope off the area with velvet cord. From now on, the chandelier is floor." Still trembling, Gustavo stammered. You turned the party's center into a cradle?" "I turned a threat into a pause," she replied. The millionaire came close, studying as if learning a new language. "How long before the cooled piece gives way?" "Long enough not to act stupid," said Vitali. "Too short to relax." The side doors opened. Guards brought in the man with the cap, cuffed. His face mixed rage and calculation. Failure doesn't quit, it shifts plan. Beside him, 2 detectives, called by silent code, received a quick rundown. "He won't talk," a guard reported. "He will," the millionaire said. "Not violent, just certain. Because no one here applauds lies anymore." Clara breathed like someone surfacing after too deep. Her hand still shook with the hoist's echo. The hall around her began to understand what had happened, and who held their ceiling intact. Some guests approached, shy thanks. Others offered silent apologies worth less than the words they never had courage to speak. The perfume woman, cornered by fact, muttered something that tried to sound refined and left. Her entourage followed, smaller than it had arrived. "Statement now?" asked a reporter, appearing like someone who smells water in a desert. "Statement later," the millionaire replied. "First, safety, then truth, finally story. That's the order." Vitali motioned to Clara. "Let's check the rafters. I want to see the damage from above. If the crown cracked, we'll have to lock it from inside." She nodded, but froze at the sound of quiet sobbing. The florist, the one with pins in her shoes, crouched behind a stripped-down arrangement, face buried in her hands. I saw them messing with the flower columns, thought it was supplier work. If I had spoken—" "You speak now," Clara said, kneeling beside her. "Tell everything you saw, as if placing flowers." One step at a time, the florist breathed and spilled dates, times, faces, words that together became diagrams. Gustavo shuffled closer, pale. "I got instructions on the tablet. Looked like from the lighting crew. You didn't check," the millionaire finished. "You signed in a rush, trusted the shine." Gustavo stared at the floor. I'm sorry." "So is the building," Vitali cut in. It almost felt sorry in stone. Clara touched the manager's shoulder, without hate. "Everyone learned tonight, you too." "Shall we go up?" Vitali asked, pointing at the hatch. "Up," Clara agreed. "But first," she turned to the millionaire, "divide the hall. Half on the terrace, half in side rooms. Rotate every 5 minutes. Soft music, food flowing, no crowd under the center, and heels off the perimeter. Vibration counts." "Listen to tonight's engineer," the host said, and no one argued. Truth, once shown, doesn't need titles. In the rafters, the air was different. Old dust, cables, steel frames. Vitali's flashlight traced an industrial path that fed the ballroom's beauty. There, the crack revealed its soul. The main plate, worn near the eyelet. Microfractures like veins. "We need a bridge," Vitali said. "A plate over, a through-bolt wide washer. A field fix, but it'll hold till morning." "Do we have that?" The engineer gave a professional grin. "If not, we'll make it. Threaded bar, steel flats from stage props, cobalt drill bit, me and 3 steady arms." Clara ran her gloved hand along the beam. Once it's set, the chandelier can sleep in the cradle. Tomorrow hospital. Tomorrow exists, Vitali replied, because today didn't fall. Below, the violin began again, not by mistake, but by wisdom. A clean melody, almost old, giving marble something new, humility. The millionaire climbed 2 steps into the hatch. Clara, she turned. Thank you doesn't fit, so I'll use another word. Contract. Contract? I want you to map this house like no one else, then the others. What is luxury without someone spotting danger? I want to pay for eyes. Yours. She blinked, surprised. Not at money, but at respect. Let's think about it when everyone's home. That's why the contract was born now, he said with his first smile that wasn't rehearsed. Vitali tapped the beam with a wrench, calling them back. Time for the bridge. They worked in the silence only saviors know. Slow drilling, steady vibration, bolt pushing through fear and back with washer and nut. Each turn of the wrench 1 centimeter less of risk. Below, the cradle of bases and felt held the chandelier's dignity like a mother holds a fevered child. When the reinforced plate bit the weary piece, Vitali locked the final nut. Thread lock, he dripped sealant. Final torque, he tightened. The metal answered with a short, deep sound, without pain, almost a yes. Clara leaned her forehead against the beam, eyes closed for a second. The house stopped asking for help, she said. Because someone answered, the engineer replied. They came down. The hall looked different without moving an inch. Less arrogance in the air, more awkward gratitude. The foreign investor stepped quietly to Clara and, without affectation, bowed his head. It was beautiful, he said, not the chandelier. The courage. The perfume woman kept her distance. Her circle now whispered low, realizing some laughs charge interest. The millionaire raised his hand and spoke, not as a showman, but as someone who had weighed each second. The party goes on, not because we pretend nothing happened, but because we chose something better to happen. This house stands tonight thanks to those always on the floor. Learn her name, Clara. Applause. This time, standing. The florist wept openly. Kitchen staff banged spoons on pans behind the curtain. Guards smiled with their eyes, and Clara, never made for stage, stood at its center without asking. Then the radio crackled, cold as water down the spine. Sir, we found something else at the dock. A folder, documents, access lists, payments, forged signatures, and names. The hall didn't hear, but the circle near the host did, and the air dropped a degree. The usual, the millionaire muttered. Pull the thread from the ceiling and the rug comes with it. Oh, ChatGPT Dees. Clara met Vitali's eyes. Then it isn't over. No, he said. Now comes the part where there's no steel to tighten, only people. And while the chandelier rested in its unlikely cradle, the night prepared its next test, not one with chains, but with truths. The guard's radio still crackled, but those few words had already changed the weight of the air. Access lists, payments, forged signatures, names. The millionaire shut his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, there was no host's sparkle left, only the chill of a man who understood the party wasn't the target, but the curtain. Bring the folder, he ordered. Minutes later, 2 guards crossed the hall discreetly with a black case. They handed it to the host, who placed it on the main table. The metallic click of the latch echoed louder than the music. Clara, beside him, felt her spine prickle. Vitali unfolded the papers. Diagrams, bank transfers, cloned contracts, and on top a list of inside collaborators, names printed in sharp letters. Gustavo. The room seemed to spin for a second. The manager, standing only steps away, went pale. "It's forged!" he shouted, trying to laugh. "Cheap trick!" But the numbers were there, deposits into shell accounts, dates lining up with every mystery failure of the night. "You sold the house," the millionaire said. "No need to shout. You sold the roof over your head for scraps." "No, sir, Gustavo tried to lunge, but 2 guards were already on him. The entire ballroom saw. Conversations froze, the orchestra stopped, even the cutlery fell silent. "Explain this." the foreign investor said, stepping closer. He alone wouldn't have maps, nor the nerve. Vitaly flipped faster. Here, fake vendors, bogus invoices, signed receipts, and not just him. He turned the page. 3 outside names. And one inside who shouldn't be. The perfume woman went pale. Clara caught it before anyone else. Her eyes skimmed the list like someone spotting her own reflection. She tried to hide it, but it was too late. Helena Duarte, Vitaly read out loud. Image consultant, backstage access cleared, authorization signed by the manager. The hall erupted in murmurs. Eyes sliced through the perfume woman like knives. She tried to fight back. Me? This is setup. I only handled aesthetics, flowers, lights. Clara stepped forward. You're the one who demanded huge arrangements covering the chandelier's base, weren't you? Said it would be more photogenic. It was design, pure design. It was cover, Clara shot back, and nearly the last photo of everyone here. The woman backed away, but her entourage was already scattering, each one eager not to sink with her. Security, the millionaire said. Escort her too. The guards hesitated a beat. She was influential after all. But one look at the folder ended it. Helena was taken away. The face once perfumed, now burned with contained hatred. Silence filled with clapping, first faint, then steady. Not joy, but justice, the sound of masks falling. Clara breathed deep. It wasn't triumph, it was weight. Everything she had sensed was here. Luxury had always had cracks. People just refused to look. The millionaire held up the papers, showing them to the press crammed quietly at the back. This house almost fell, not from weak beams, but from weak character, and it was an invisible woman who saw it first. Remember this name, Clara. Cameras fired. Microphones rose. Headlines were already being born between the flashes and hurried voices. But before Clara could feel pride, she heard it again. Crack. Everyone's heads lifted by instinct. The chandelier, now strapped into its cradle of bases and belts, groaned faintly. It wouldn't fall, not anymore, but it reminded them the night wasn't done. Just the weight adjusting, Vitaly said calmly. It's safe, but let it remind us. No luxury lasts when the foundation rots. The millionaire placed a hand on Clara's shoulder. Tonight, you saved more than a hall. You saved a truth. Clara, still stunned, whispered, I only did what I've always done. Cleaned what was dirty. No, he corrected. You proved it was never you who was invisible. It was the dirt trying to hide. Applause rose again, louder, truer. The whole hall, once mocking, now stood for her. Some wept quietly. Others looked with a new respect. The foreign investor lifted his glass. Let's toast not to gold, not to crystal, but to the courage that held it all. The toast echoed in unison. In the corner, Helena and Gustavo were led away. The man in the cap was already with the police, and Clara, for the first time, held no broom, no rag, no silence. She held the truth, but the night still had one last lesson to give. My name is Clara. I clean floors. And today, I learned that cleaning the floor also means keeping the ceiling standing. The hall burst into applause, and in that instant, power changed hands. The clapping still echoed when Clara felt her body tremble. It wasn't physical fatigue. It was the weight of a whole life suddenly being seen by eyes that had always pretended not to notice. She drew a deep breath. The hall, once so hostile, now cheered her name. But deep down she knew. It wasn't the glittering dresses or raised glasses that mattered. What mattered was what she had learned that night and what everyone present would never forget. The millionaire raised his hand, asking for silence. Tonight, he said, does not end with music or with toasts. It ends with a simple truth. Everyone here was safe because someone you all ignored chose to see. A bold reporter stepped forward, microphone in hand. Sir, does that mean the responsibility for this event was in the hands of a cleaning lady? No, the host replied. The responsibility was in everyone's hands, but only one had the courage to carry it. Clara felt her eyes well. She wanted to step back, but there was nowhere to go. So she spoke. Her voice, once timid, filled the hall as if it had been saved her entire life for that moment. You saw me sweeping the floor, and you thought that was all. But every corner I clean teaches me to see cracks. Every bit of dust I remove shows me what was hidden. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a millionaire, but I learned to observe. And observing today saved all of you. A reverent silence took over. No one dared laugh. No one dared mock. Even the phones lowered, as if recording would cheapen the moment. The florist, still shaken, stepped out from behind a curtain, tears in her eyes. I saw things too, but I stayed quiet. I thought my voice didn't matter. But she showed me it does. Clara hugged her. It always matters. We just need the courage to use it. The foreign investor, a man used to watching billions change hands, inclined his head toward Clara. Anyone who can turn fear into clarity deserves more than respect. She deserves trust. And then the millionaire declared, his voice firm, Clara is no longer just staff in this house. From today on, she will be a security consultant at every event we hold. And if she accepts, she will have my personal contract. Because eyes that save are worth more than gold that decorates. The hall erupted in a standing ovation. Gustavo, cuffed, shouted, She's nothing but a janitor. No degree, no... A guard pulled him away. But Clara stood firm, answering calmly, And yet without a degree, I saved the life your degree could not. The perfume woman, already escorted, lowered her eyes. The pride that had carried her was now shame. That night marked the end of her sway. Meanwhile, guests who once mocked now approached Clara almost timidly. Some asked forgiveness, others offered thanks, others simply shook her hand. Each gesture was worth more than all the luxury around them. The orchestra began again, but not with party music. It was a gentle melody, almost a prayer. The chandelier, now resting in its improvised cradle, seemed to symbolize something greater. Arrogance forced to bow. Clara walked up to it. She ran her hand over the crystals as if soothing a frightened child. You didn't fall, she whispered, and because of that, everyone learned what they had to. The millionaire stepped closer. What did you learn tonight, Clara? She smiled faintly. That no one is invisible once they choose to see, and that sometimes the one who cleans the floor is the one holding the ceiling. He nodded. And what do you think the others learned? Clara looked at the guests, now more human, less imposing. That respect isn't measured by the shoes you wear, but by the weight you can bear, the florist added softly, and that arrogance always cracks, sooner or later. The cameras caught every word. By morning, headlines would read, Cleaner saves millionaire's gala, exposes sabotage, luxury depended on unseen eyes, Clara, the unlikely heroine. But to Clara, that didn't matter. What mattered was knowing that, on this night, she had beaten not just danger, but the humiliations of a lifetime. The guests began leaving, in respectful silence. Some glanced at the chandelier as if looking into a mirror. Others looked at Clara as if discovering a new kind of greatness. In the end, only the guards, Vitali, the florist, the millionaire, and Clara remained. She pulled off her gloves, set them on the table, and said, Now I can go back to my work. The millionaire smiled. Your work has changed. You are no longer just the one who cleans. You are the one who sees. Clara looked at the chandelier one last time. The shine of the crystals reflected her tired yet calm face. For the first time, she didn't feel small in front of all that luxury. She felt bigger. As she left the hall, she heard the millionaire's final words behind her, almost like a promise. Today, everyone realized that true luxury isn't gold or crystal or the party. It's the courage that holds up what really matters. And Clara walked out in silence, carrying with her a lesson etched on her skin, that even the most invisible hands can change the fate of an empire. And now I want to know from you, if you were in Clara's place, would you have had the same courage to face all those looks of disdain to save that night? Leave your answer in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this video so more people can hear this story.